Suzuki know a thing or two about making excellent small cars. 2024 marks 40 years since the introduction of the first Swift, and this, the 6th generation, is the best one yet. I'm Sam Luscombe from Luscombe Suzuki Leeds, and I'm going to show you around. So Suzuki have kept the dimensions of the Swift almost identical to the outgoing version, but there are some noticeable changes at the front, as you will see with the new front end. So that bonnet line has moved higher up the bonnet, and you've got these new L-shaped daytime running lights that sit within the headlights. You've also got a new gloss black front grille. Now, personally, I really like how they've done this, because previously this radar sensor within here was sat to the left with the Suzuki badge in here, which had a slightly off-centered and non-symmetrical look. The fact they've neatened that up now is a big step forward. So the Swift continues its sporty stance, sat on 16-inch diamond cut alloy wheels on this, the Ultra range topping model. The Motion, which is the entry-level model, comes with painted alloys, but for those who don't like the appeal of those, here at Luscombe Suzuki we've got a solution for that as well. As I come down the side of the car, there's a new swage line that runs all the way front to rear and into the rear tail lights, which are also brand new. But for me, the biggest change on the rear is the relocation of the reversing camera, which previously was just above the number plate on the outgoing model, now comes up much higher to give a far better view of any space you're reversing into for a better and clearer image on the new screen. The new screen I'll come to when we get inside. It's another large step forward. But the next big change for the Swift is under the bonnet. So as many manufacturers are pulling out of the small car B segment, Suzuki are actually putting a brand new engine into this car. It's a brand new 1.2 3-cylinder engine with a mild hybrid. The mild hybrid formula has been so successful with Suzuki on the previous version, this one continues. And that generates CO2 emissions of just 99 grams per kilometre and 64.2 miles per gallon. So that's a whistle-stop tour of the outside of the car. But where the Swift really separates itself from its predecessors is inside. And the first thing to query with the new model is how you get inside. So now, even on the entry-level Motion spec, you have keyless entry. So simply press this button on the door and the car will open and unlock. Rear seat passengers can now enter via a conventional door handle rather than one in the C-pillar like the old version. But if I jump inside, the first thing you are greeted with is this new two-tone colour scheme, which really makes the inside feel much lighter, more spacious and a lot more modern. So sat inside, existing Swift owners will feel comfortable. It feels very Swift-like. Obviously the noticeable differences are across the dashboard. You now have this huge colour touchscreen infotainment unit, and as I mentioned before, this two-tone light coloured plastics across the dashboard and across into the door cards. Now, if you've watched any review of any car ever, you'll know that reviewers hate scratchy plastics. I don't care. I don't touch them that often. But one thing I do like that Suzuki have done is in this lighter coloured area across both the top of the dashboard and on the door cards here, they've textured it with a sort of crosshatch diagonal pattern, which actually lifts it and makes it feel much nicer than it would do if it was plain. So firing the Swift into life, you'll feel the 1.2 litre engine kicking to life, but also this new 9-inch infotainment screen turn on with a Suzuki logo. This is completely new and is the same technology that we see in the Suzuki S-Cross, which is a big step forward to the previous outgoing iteration of the Swift. Now, one thing that not many cars at this price point can boast, which the Swift can, is wireless Apple CarPlay. Now, for me, that is an absolutely critical feature. The amount of time that I've spent trying to plug in and use the correct cables to get Apple CarPlay to work using a wired solution, having it wireless and having it just work is absolutely excellent. Now, that's no slight on the software that is in these manufacturer OEM spec cars, but I'll be honest with you, they're not to the same level that you expect from your phone, and it's just not as familiar. So having wireless CarPlay on there is a big plus point for me in the Swift. I mentioned earlier on that reversing camera has moved higher up the tailgate, which now gives you a much better view of the rear view parking camera, with guidelines on there as well to give you information about where you need to be stopping. Now, one other thing that the Swift has done, and Suzuki do this really, really well, they know what people want. There has been a trend over the last few years that every manufacturer decides to put heating controls and the things that you need while you're on the move as part of the touchscreen menu. Suzuki haven't done that, and in this you have toggle buttons, simple to access, with the climate control settings here that you get on the Ultra version, with all your demister settings at the push of a button. Coming lower down the dashboard, and what's rare in a car at this size is you have not one, not two, but three USB ports, two of which are typical USB, and we've got a USB-C there as well. Now, if I've got one bit of criticism, I don't know why these need to flap back down. It's a bit unnecessary, a bit fiddly, but you have two USB and a USB-C in there, as well as your 12-volt charger socket. So one of the things that Suzuki really pride themselves on is that their cars come with all the tech you need, and the Swift is no different. While this is the Ultra spec, the top of the range, the Motion spec, which opens the range up, still comes with an unbelievable amount of standard specification. Not limited to heated seats, yes, on the base spec, adaptive cruise control, again, barely believable for a car at this price point, wireless Apple CarPlay, keyless entry and push button start, as well as blind spot monitor in the wing mirrors, and loads more. Upgrading to this, the Ultra gets the automatic air conditioning, power folding mirrors, the 16-inch diamond cut alloys we showed you outside, as well as a rear heater outlet and the adjustment, the height adjustment on the driver and passenger seat belts. For those of you who don't want to use the wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, there is inbuilt FM, AM and DAB, as well as an inbuilt sat-nav on both Motion and Ultra spec. Over on the right hand side here, again, talking about soft touch materials, the bits that you touch, the steering wheel, that's the bit you touch the most, and that feels very nice. In front of you is a simple analog dials. Suzuki have resisted the temptation to go down the digital route and have kept it very clean, very structured, with a center screen which shows you the adaptive cruise control, traffic sign recognition, and also your speed limiter function. On the left hand side of the wheel you have your volume controls, media controls, and down here, as is familiar to anybody who's owned a Swift before, the Bluetooth controls for answering or making telephone calls. In the back, the Swift is ample in size. I've got lots of legroom, decent headroom. If anyone's seen our MG3 review we did recently of the new MG3 hybrid, my take on that is that the Swift is a more comfortable place to be in the back. You even get electric windows in the back, and while there is a slightly more pronounced transmission tunnel in this car than there is in the MG3, if you can straddle that, the seating position sat here in the middle is better than it is in that car. Generally speaking, as with any small car in this sort of class, it's not going to be somewhere you're going to sit for hours and hours on end, but I do feel generally quite comfortable sat in here for a reasonable length of time. Also, Suzuki have got, as expected, your ISOFIX points both on the driver's side and the passenger side, neatly tucked away, out of the way, and the boot, which I will show you in a second, is a good size. Let's not pretend that the boot on this Swift is going to be huge. However, at 265 litres of boot space, there is plenty for your day-to-day usage. There's loads and loads of room for shopping in here, as well as ample space for your carry-on luggage if you're going on holiday. Suzuki pride themselves on unexpected quality. Now, you may look at this and go, well, there's nothing that's giving me massive quality vibes in here, but I tell you what, once you get out and drive this car, it is unexpectedly brilliant. So this is the 1.2 5-speed manual gearbox. They also do a CVT automatic gearbox, and If that's what you need, you can get the Suzuki All Grip System 4-wheel drive. With the help of a very small battery, as you're cruising along, the power is taken from the forward motion of the wheels, stored in the battery and released as electrical energy back in to give you a little bit of electrical power through the rev range at low speeds to help you pull away using less fuel and a bit of electrical power, giving you that 64.2 miles per gallon. Now, in testing and what we've driven and experienced so far, that is eminently achievable as long as you haven't got a heavy right foot. The Swift is highly capable at motorway speeds, and that's helped with the adaptive cruise control. Now, anyone who's used cruise control in the past will know that traditional dumb cruise control is almost not really worth having with anymore, because as soon as anybody pulls in front of you, you have to turn the system off. Using the Suzuki's cameras and radar system, you can set a safe distance to the car ahead and set your speed so that no matter what happens in front of you, the car will always maintain a safe distance to the car in front, which makes driving on the motorway an absolute doddle. Now, there are lots of small cars and there will be other cars that undercut this in price, but there won't be many that you will drive that feel quite as precise and as well planted and fun to drive as the Swift. So, that's the Swift. It builds on everything that was great about the previous version and just makes it better. So here are 5 things we think you'll love about the new Swift. 1. As the world tells you that you've got to go EV, Suzuki are still there perfecting the art of the small, affordable petrol car. This new 1.2 engine is 8% more fuel efficient than the outgoing model, and that means less frequent and less costly trips to the petrol station. Number 2, tech. Tech, tech and more tech. But not just any old tech, tech that actually works and tech that makes your life better. Wireless CarPlay, game changer. Number 3 is unexpected quality. For those of you who've owned Suzukis in the past, you'll know they never miss a beat. But just for those who are not so sure, Suzuki now back it with an up to 7-year warranty. Number 4 is the customization options you've got with the new Swift. With 12 combinations made up of 8 colours and 2 different contrast roof options, plus the ability to upgrade your Motion alloys to the Ultra alloys for less than the price of metallic paint at Luscombe Suzuki, the Swift is yours to do with as you please. And number 5, it's available now from just $18,699 with 2 trims, 2 gearboxes and even a 4-wheel drive option. What's more, for existing Suzuki owners, you can have an additional 500 quid off if you're quick and order before the end of June. So that's the new Swift. We love it, I'm sure you'll love it. Feel free to come down and book your test drive at Luscombe Suzuki today on 0113 271 2288 or luscombemotors.co.uk.